Hello, Wonderhussy here at an oasis, a true oasis. Look at all this water here in the Mojave Desert, just an hour outside Las Vegas. That's right, we're only an hour from Vegas. This is the headwaters of the Muddy River. We're kind of up north towards Utah. The Muddy River, I think, eventually empties out into Lake Mead. Well, this whole green, lush area here is the headwaters of the Muddy River. And it's basically a complex of 24 warm springs that all come bubbling up from the ground. I mean, here's one of the creeks, or the creek. I'm not sure. I just got here. I haven't really looked around too much, but apparently this area is now known as the Warm Springs Natural Area. And it's managed by the Southern Nevada Water Authority, which, depending on where you're watching this from, some of you might have mixed opinions on the Southern Nevada Water Authority. I don't know. They bought or took ownership of this giant warm springs complex probably about 10 years ago, and they turned it into this kind of nature area where you can go for little hikes and walks and wander around all these beautiful, juicy, tempting warm springs. Oh my God, I would absolutely love to get in this creek right now. It's September 16th. It's about 9,500 degrees out. It's hot. And this water looks amazing. But unfortunately, you're not allowed to swim in the water because of a little thing called the Moapa dace. Okay, I didn't know what a dace was either. It's some kind of fish that lives out here in this Warm Springs Oasis. It's its only habitat. And I guess, according to this graph here, when they first started here in summer 2008, there were fewer than 500 of these dace left. So they were critically endangered. I think that's why they shut there used to be a swimming area here, which we'll get to in a minute, but they shut all that down to preserve the dace. And, well, to be fair, I understand that little dace has just as much right to live its life as I do. And, you know, the dace was living here happily for millennia when the Native Americans, you know, camped out here. And I think they used to farm corn, squash, beans, you know, the three sisters. I think that's what they're called, corn, squash, and beans. Well, the Native Americans lived out here at this beautiful oasis, farming peacefully in harmony with the dace for millennia, until the white man rolled in. And, well, I guess, I think that old Spanish trail, you know, the trail that the Spaniards forged from Santa Fe all the way to Los Angeles, well, it passed pretty close by here, within a few miles, I think. So they probably would stop here and rest and, you know, water their horses or whatever. But then, you know, a couple hundred years after the Spanish trail guys, then here came the Mormons. The Mormon pioneers came out, and, well, you know how Mormons do. They're very industrious people. They settled and built ranches, and they used all this delicious warm spring water to irrigate farm fields. And, well, I guess there were some pretty nice ranches out here all the way up until the 1970s. Okay, so I think there's a couple different, like, little nature trails you can take here that you walk around the various oases and see the warm springs. See the warm springs. You're not allowed to go in the warm springs. But there's also a bunch of informational signs that are pretty interesting that tell you a little bit about the history of this place. Like this one here. See, this here shows a picture of one of the spring heads and a really cool old vintage photo of people at the Warm Springs Ranch. You can see they're posed by the Warm Springs Ranch Woody Wagon. Woody Wagon, how about that? Yeah, this was a kind of like a recreational complex called the Warm Springs Ranch, and this sign kind of talks about it. It says, Warm Springs was once a welcome escape from busy city life for visitors to swim, lounge, and picnic. And it goes on to talk about the names of the various resorts that operated over the years. And you can pause the video and read the whole thing if you want, but, well, basically it just talks about the same stuff I was just saying. How these Mormon ranchers came and settled and developed everything. And then one day in 1971, a fellow by the name of Howard Hughes happened to be flying over this area in his airplane. Now, remember, if you've watched my video about Howard Hughes and Melvin Dumar. Howard Hughes, famously or infamously, checked into the Desert Inn Hotel here in Vegas on Thanksgiving evening, I think 1967, 66, I can't remember what year, but he stayed basically for 4 years, never left the room, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, he didn't never leave the room, as proved in that other video I made. He left the room occasionally to go to brothels, and apparently he also left occasionally just to fly around the area. So one day in 1971, he was flying over this baking, broiling, godforsaken desert north of Las Vegas, and he spotted this lush green oasis. And I guess, you know, he's probably curious, what is that? Found out, oh, it's this big warm springs complex. Well, he bought the whole thing, and he turned it into kind of like a public swimming recreation complex where people from Las Vegas could come out and swim. And I mean, if you read some of the old timers' memories of this place, supposedly, you know, the showgirls would come out here to sunbathe, and they had cabanas and swimming pools, and oh gosh, I mean, it sounded like a really, really cool place. Now, unfortunately, it closed down a long time ago. I'm not sure exactly when. I first came out here probably in 2015. Oh, by the way, if you see people in the background, that's my friends that I'm here with. Don't mind them. Anyway, I came out here in 2015 with my sister once, kind of just poking around, wondering, you know, well, I wonder if there's any hot springs we could soak in out here. I mean, you know how I am about hot springs. And well, at that time, we didn't find anything soakable, but everything was just really shaggy and overgrown and abandoned, and it was really surreal. I think what happened is there's been a few wildfires up here over the last few decades, and that might be why the public swimming complex closed down. I'm not really sure. I wasn't able to find the answer anywhere online. So if anybody watching this happens to know why this public swimming complex closed, or if you have any memories of it, please comment below, because I'd really be interested in reading it. And if you have any photos of yourself here back in the day, please email them to me, because I'd love to see them. Anyway, nowadays you can't swim here because this, you know, Warm Springs natural area thing, they're trying to protect this fish. Okay, fine, I understand. I appreciate the right of this fish to live. So you're basically just allowed to come out here and look at the water, which is like, you know, being invited to a fancy restaurant or a candy store. You're not allowed to buy anything. You're just allowed to look at everything. Unless you happen to be a Mormon. If you're a Mormon, then you are allowed to put your toes in this pretty little water and take a bath. Well, not right here, but there's a section of this whole, I mean, this is a vast, vast oasis area. I don't know how many acres it is, but there's a big chunk of it. In fact, it's like the choicest chunk. I think it's the biggest spring, is still owned by the Mormon Church, the Church of Latter-day Saints. They own it, and they operate it as it's like a private recreation swimming complex for church members only, though. I'm pretty sure. I tried to look into it and see if non-Mormons were allowed to go swim there, but unfortunately, even to go to their website, when you click, if you type the name of the Mormon, I can't remember what it is, Warm Springs Ranch or something, if you put that in, before it takes you to the website, you have to enter your Church of Latter-day Saints username and password. Okay, yeah, I know I could create an account with the Church of Latter-day Saints, but do I want to? No, not really, because next thing you know, I'm going to be getting all kind of phone calls from people trying to convert me. So basically, whatever information they have about this private Mormon swimming complex is locked up tighter than a you-know-what. And, well, I guess even I don't want to dip in that hot spring that bad. So all I'm going to be able to do here is walk around, check out these little walking trails, and see what we see. There's more informational signs that kind of talk about the place. Oh, this one talks about some of the wildfires. I guess there was a big ranch called the Home Ranch that burned down in 1987. And these irrigation ditches, you can maybe see there in the distance, there's like a rock-lined irrigation ditch. That's what the old rancher at the Home Ranch was using to irrigate his fields. And once the ranch burned down, I guess the irrigation ditch overflowed and flooded. And that's how come all these palm trees grew up. Now, I was reading online that these are native California fan palms, but I don't understand how they can be native to Nevada if they're California fan palms. I guess maybe they're just sort of native to the Mojave Desert. I think one of these trails leads to a swimming hole, or an ex-swimming hole, that, well, as annoying as it's going to be to go look at and not be able to get in, Well, at least we should go take a look at it and measure the temperature. Oh, look, here's some more historical photos. Look at this. This is cool. So this sign talks about the history of the springs all the way from the prehistoric times, 9200 to 5500 BC. I guess they found artifacts down here on the river showing that Native Americans were living in this area. And then they started farming, like I was talking about. Well, I guess they didn't start farming until 300 to 550 AD. So they continued living here peacefully, growing their corn and beans until, we're just going to skip ahead, 1776 when the Spaniards rolled in. And then here we go to 1850 when the Mormon missionaries arrived, which is basically what I just got finished telling you guys about. Okay, now we're coming into this little grove and it looks like it might be an overlook into one of the pools. Oh, wow, yeah, look at this. Oh my goodness. Look how beautiful this pool is. Oh, wow, far. Look how clear the water is. Oh my God, this is torture. I want to go in there so bad. Look at all the grasses growing up through the bottom too, you know, that would feel so funny tickling on your skin if you swam through there. Looks like it's pretty deep too. I would die to be in my floaty, floating around on that right now with a margarita. Take that, LDS. Okay, let's, for funsies, check the temperature of this warm spring. Oh, Celsius. What kind of communist BS is that? We want Fahrenheit. 88.1 degrees. In other words, the perfect temperature for floating around in a floaty with a margarita. Curses! Now, if I was a less ethical person, there's nobody out here. I could pretty easily find a way. I mean, you can see over there, there's that picnic table. You can get right down to the water's edge. I could go in, and probably no one would be the wiser if I didn't post this video on YouTube. But I won't, because I care, and as unpleasant as it is to inconvenience my personal soaking pleasure for the life of some stupid fish, well, I actually do care about this little fish. And speaking of that fish, here's a sign all about it. So this is what it looks like. The adult Moapa dace, only 2 to 3 inches long. It's a little tiny thing. Aww. Hey, what's really interesting is look at what the current dace count is. It's like a little chalkboard here, and they update it, and the dace population, remember now, we saw on that sign back there that in 2008 when they first started here, it was under 500. Well, now it's over 4 times that, over 2,000 dace, 2,033 dace. I mean, isn't that plenty? How many days do we need? Open the dang hot spring again. Okay, well, you can see there where my friend is standing, there is kind of like a little beach that you can get down. And well, again, like I said, I'm not going to get in the water because I do respect that dace. But, you know, I feel like I could at least put a finger in, right? I mean, I'll be very careful. Don't tell anyone. Oh, just walking down this little trail. It's just beautiful out here. I mean, it's cottonwood trees in addition to the fan palms in the background, big old mesquite trees. Not sure what these bushes are with the yellow flowers, but they smell amazing. It's a really, really nice little wildlife area and totally unexpected in this part of the desert. I mean, like I said, we're only an hour north of Vegas, and we're in a kind of a town called Moapa, which is, there's a Moapa tribal, like a Native American reservation up here, and that's what's really kind of messed up about this whole place is these friggin' Native Americans were living out here for thousands of years, enjoying the beautiful warm springs and living here peacefully, coexisting with all the animals, not putting a damn thing extinct. And then what happens? The white man rolls in and takes possession of it. And you should see this Moapa reservation. I mean, I don't mean to disparage it if you are, if you live on the Moapa reservation and you're part of that tribe. It's pretty depressing though. If you ask me, they should have had their reservation right here. And I'd be pretty pissed about it if I was one of the natives, but okay, anyway. Okay, here's the access point where we can put our finger in, but first let's look at what does this say. A bubbly life. If you look closely at the sediment on the bottom, you'll see bubbles form. These bubbles are created by warm water surging up through the sand. Oh, okay, I've seen that at a lot of hot springs. You see the little bubbles coming up from the bottom? The flow here can fill an average car's gas tank, about 19 gallons, in 1 second. So it's like 19 gallons a second, the flow out of here. Which I guess I believe, because, I mean, first of all, it's pretty deep, and it is flowing pretty swiftly. Okay, let's check the water. oh my gosh, it looks like an aquarium. The water is so clear and those beautiful grasses underneath it. Oh, look, there's a dace. Isn't that a dace? Oh, they're shy. You can't see them. And there's like dragonflies buzzing around. Oh, it's just, this is a true desert oasis. So beautiful. Okay, I'm just going to put one finger in. You have my word. Any wildlife people watching this. It's perfect. It's perfect floaty temperature. You know, this spring kind of reminds me of, because it's so tempting to want to go in there. But remember that story a few years ago out at the Devil's Hole, which is not that far from here, I guess, geographically. It might even be part of the same whole underground water system, but it's that really, really deep cave just outside Death Valley that has water in it that's like connected to this crazy underground water system. And a few years ago, some drunk yahoos rode their ATVs out there and decided to go swimming and clumsily climbed down into the Devil's Hole, where there's an even more endangered species called the pupfish living. And the one guy stepped on, I think there was only like 5 of these pupfish left in existence. Well, he stepped on one of them. I'm exaggerating. There's probably like 60, but he killed one of them. And then the other guy puked on him. And I was just, they ended up catching both of them because there were security cameras there. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they had security cameras here too. I'm just saying all of this to reinforce my wishes that anybody watching this video, please don't think I'm recommending that you come out here and go swimming. I'm definitely not. I'm just saying I really wish they would reopen this place. I don't know what number of days they have to get to before they feel like it's okay again. And well, realistically, there probably is no number of days and it'll never be okay again. Okay, this sign kind of goes into where the last sign left off when the Mormons first moved in. It talks about, oh wow, look at this, is a cool old picture of the pack trains and buggies crossing the desert. Can you imagine? That's how these people used to travel. Like that, across this blazing, baking desert. And look, here's a couple people that were fishing in the muddy river back in the, I don't know, looks like maybe 1920s, 30s. Here's a picture of one of the old ranch buildings. And there's pictures of some of the farm workers harvesting the crops. And then it talks about Howard Hughes buying it and turning it into that swimming hole. And then it talks about the Mormons buying it. And then it ends up right here where we are today. Okay, 2007, I guess, is when the Water Authority took possession. Which was a sad day for soakers, but a good day for the Moapa Dace. Okay, I'm just sort of walking around, following the trail, seeing if there's anything else interesting out here. While I'm walking, I should note that if you want to come visit this place, it's definitely worth it. Like I say, it's only an hour outside Vegas, paved roads the whole way. There's parking, there's a restroom, there's drinking water, there's gas stations along the way. It's really an easy trip. The hours are kind of funky. I think it's open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. from like Labor Day to Memorial Day. So just go to their website to make sure they're open before you drive all the way out here. But I think it's totally worth it. I mean, if it wasn't this hot, it'd be a beautiful place to just come take a walk, have a picnic. And I mean, listen, it's totally quiet. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like you're way farther than an hour from Las Vegas. I mean, look how good this trail is. You could definitely get a wheelchair down this trail with no problem at all. If you're using a walker or anything like that, there's no trip hazards. It's pretty straightforward. Anybody could enjoy this place. Okay, look at this little spur trail. First of all, there's a really nice little bench you could sit on, take a break. There's a sign that talks about, oh, the invasive species that they're trying to clear out of here. But look, it's right at the edge of this amazing river. And look at this river. Oh my gosh, I hope this comes out on camera. I know my shadow is going to be in the shot, but wow. I don't know if you can see like I am, but the crazy pattern, the stripes that those grasses are making under the flowing water, look at that. It would be unbelievably awesome to get in that water right now. Again, I'm going to be ethical and not get in the water to save the fish. As tempting as it is on this hot late summer day, this beautiful shady river of 88-degree water. Actually, let me check this and see. Oh, it's 94 over here. 95. Look, 94. Oh my God. Oh, why am I torturing myself like this coming out here? I feel like now I know what it's like to be a guy watching pornography. Like guys watch porno movies and there's these beautiful blonde actresses with these ginormous breastises that the guy watching it knows in real life he'll never in a million years be able to sample for himself, but he just enjoys looking at it. Well, this is kind of the same way. The coolest thing about all of this is it's all natural, you know? Well, for the most part. I mean, I guess the palm trees aren't, still unclear as to if those are 100% native or not. And I don't know, some of these sunflowers, I don't know if those are actually native to this area, maybe. But this is a natural oasis. You know, for all you naysayers who say like, oh, how can you live in the desert? It's so barren, it's so ugly. Well, that's what's so cool about the desert is stuff like this exists naturally in it. It's just like even more special because of its barren, inhospitable surroundings. One of my friends was just saying like, this place has such a weird history that, you know, first it was the Native Americans living here and then a bunch of Mormon ranchers and then Howard Hughes bought it and all these Vegas hoodlums and showgirls came out here and man, these beautiful waters have seen some stuff. Okay, we're back at the parking lot, and I think we actually did take the trail backwards because there's this huge sign here that I think you're meant to look at before you set out on the trail. So if you do come out here, don't do what I did and go backwards. Start here. Okay, and here's a really cool overview of the whole Springs complex. We've just been walking around this little area right here. This is the whole area we covered. But it goes on even more. Big muddy stream, that's where the Mormon place is, like I was talking about. Apparently there's even little streams coming up from farther. I guess that would be northwest. And then eventually this does still run out, in theory or maybe in practice, to Lake Mead. I'd have to go down and do some investigating. I don't know if there's any place where flowing water actually comes out of the muddy river into Lake Mead, but hey, it'd be interesting to check out sometime. Okay, well anyway, that was pretty much all there is to this Warm Springs, I keep forgetting what it's called, Warm Springs Natural Area. I guess they call it that because they're trying to restore it to the way it was when the Native Americans lived here, instead of in that depressing reservation town where they've now been forced. Now, of course, there's paved parking and a bathroom and a water fountain, which that's not natural, but hey, us white folks gotta have our fancy stuff. Hope you enjoyed this trip. I certainly did. Even though I wasn't able to take a dip, I'll definitely be back.